Hey, what's up and welcome back. It's me, Shannon Corbet, Air Force veteran. You guys were so nice when I hosted my last video, so here I am again to host some more. Summer's coming, so let's imagine you're in the Florida Keys, living it up as Jimmy Buffett intended in Margaritaville, enjoying the sights of the Atlantic Ocean and the wild Floridians. Suddenly off the coast, you see a brief explosion before being vaporized in nuclear fire. While a total vacation killer, this is also totally plausible. No, the machines aren't taking over, and Skynet didn't just launch nuclear missiles to wipe out the human race. It's just Russia again. Russia's nuclear torpedo, that is. Nuke-pedo? Which is more like an underwater drone, but you get the idea.
But before we get into that, I have to give a shout out to Odoo for making this episode possible. Odoo is an all-encompassing business management software with a suite of integrated apps to streamline pretty much every aspect of your business operations. From sales and CRM to manufacturing and purchasing support, Odoo is your one-stop shop to handle literally everything in support of your business, large or small. With the sales app, you can create clean, professional, and interactive quotes and track them all the way through the process from sales leads to reporting and payment. And with the CRM platform, you'll have accurate, real-time data to inform sales decisions and forecast revenue. You can automatically plan the next activities based on your sales script throughout the sales pipeline with ease and never miss an important task needed to close out a deal. When it comes to manufacturing, Odoo's dashboard puts assembly data, work orders, load times, and so much more right at your fingertips. And with the mobile barcode app, you can scan and record production components to process orders and accelerate operations while reducing input errors. Right out of the box, blazing fast with zero latency. Whether you're a one-man band or a massive corporation, Odoo has innovative software solutions to future-proof your business. Visit odoo.com today to start with your first app completely free, no trial, no payment info, free for life. You'll be glad you did.
Since the dawn of the nuclear age, people have been figuring out the best ways to unleash the power of the sun on each other. Yay! We've come a long way since Fat Man and Little Boy being dropped from a B-29, and the horrifying innovation continues. Currently, Russia, like the United States, follows the idea of the nuclear triad, which includes intercontinental ballistic missiles, submarine-launched ballistic missiles, and old-fashioned nuclear bombs. However, in Russia, this triad is on track to have a fourth component, as in 2015, Russia accidentally leaked a new type of weapon known only as the Status-6 Oceanic Multipurpose System. It wouldn't be until 2018 when Putin announced in his presidential address to the Federal Assembly about developing 6 new nuclear weapons that could overcome the American Global Missile Defense System that it would become official. These included new ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles, and most interestingly, a nuclear-powered unmanned underwater drone that could carry conventional or nuclear warheads. This weapon was the Status-6. But thankfully for us, it was renamed in a public vote in 2018 to Poseidon. Of course, the only thing Russians can be counted on to vote for is to name a nuclear bomb. Russia. While it may look like a torpedo and is fired from a submarine, we should think about it as more of a drone. Its navigation is not fully understood, and it's thought to navigate autonomously. It's also touted as a weapon that the United States cannot counter, and is able to bring down radioactive tsunamis on the United States. Today, we will discuss if this is more Russian chest thumping or if the Poseidon really is capable of all this. But remember, it's not a torpedo. Radioactive tsunami. Cool. Before we do a deep dive into the Poseidon, let's first look at the Soviet T-15, which is basically the grandfather of the Poseidon. The T-15 was developed in 1952 because the Kremlin thought their submarines would be the best option to attack the United States with nuclear weapons. They reasoned that because the only long-range bomber they had was the copy of the B-29, the Tu-4. While revolutionary during World War II, it was outclassed during the jet age and would be an easy target for American fighter jets. Combine this with its limited range, and a hypothetical bombing run on the United States would be a one-way trip. The T-15 was a massive torpedo with a diameter of more than 5 feet, a length of approximately 77 feet, and an expected weight of 40 tons. While the exact number of megatons the T-15 could produce is unknown, considering its size, it has been estimated that it could have gone up to 100. In order to house such a large torpedo, a new submarine had to be designed. That submarine was called Project 627, which would eventually morph into Russia's first nuclear-powered submarine, the November class. This new sub was going to only have 3 torpedoes, 1 T-15 and 2 533mm torpedoes for self-defense. Even the custom-built sub can only carry 1 T-15, which was 22% of the length of the submarine. It was envisioned to be used against the United States coastal cities and ports, which would destroy them with both a nuclear blast and a follow-up coastal wave. This project was so secretive and classified that most of the Russian Navy didn't even know it existed. And the commander-in-chief of the Navy, Fleet Admiral Nikolai Kuznetsov, Russian, only became aware after Stalin's death. Once he learned about the T-15, he shut down the program because he didn't want a sub that could only fire 1 giant nuclear torpedo. After this, the Project 627 design was changed, and they got rid of the slot dedicated to the T-15 and replaced it with the standard torpedo bays. Ultimately, the T-15 was replaced with the T-5 torpedo, which was a traditionally sized torpedo at 533mm that had a nuclear warhead, which granted the Soviet Navy more tactical flexibility. It would take another 60 years before the Russians would revisit this idea with the Poseidon. To put a slight disclaimer about the Poseidon, because of its obscure nature, a lot of the information we have comes from Russia's own reports, which are likely inflating their own numbers. Like we said, can't trust Russia. While this might seem bad, Congress has to do the same, so we're basically as informed as they are. Yeah. In a congressional research report, it says the Poseidon has a range of 10,000 kilometers, could reach a depth of 1,000 meters, and have a speed of 100 knots. It's classified as an unmanned underwater vehicle, and is the first to be nuclear-armed and propelled. Thanks to its nuclear power plant, the Poseidon has incredible range and could theoretically travel for months before finally striking. While its conventional payload is unknown, it's thought that its nuclear payload would be 2 megatons and could serve in 2 functions: attacking coastlines and carrier strike groups. In an attack run, the Poseidon would rely on stealth. To achieve this stealth, it would enter slow mode and only travel to 50 to 100 meters underwater to avoid pinging sound waves off the ocean floor, which is the same tactic submarines use to prowl the depths in secret. To further its stealth capabilities, its pump jet, which propels the Poseidon, is designed in a way to mimic the sound produced by civilian ships. Once reaching a suitable distance, Poseidon would enter speed mode to hit the target, and by then, it would be too little too late to stop. There are some reports that the Poseidon can use supercavitation, like the Russian VA-111 Shkval? I don't know how to pronounce it, but this is not true, as far as we know. Supercavitation is when a torpedo is surrounded by a gas bubble, so it's not slowed down by the water's friction, which allows for much greater speeds. While this sounds like a benefit, it goes against how Poseidon was designed to operate. The Poseidon can loiter for months, and adding the ability of supercavitation would add complexity like rocket propulsion that is not needed. When used in a tactical setting, it could devastate a carrier strike group, and we would have an extremely hard time stopping it, because we've never really had to plan to defeat something like that. While it should be obvious what a nuclear bomb could do to a coastal target, it also has the possibility of being salted. So when a nuclear weapon has been salted, it means that cobalt-59 has been added to the warhead, which turns into cobalt-60 after detonation. After it hits its target, it's estimated that the affected area would be uninhabitable for almost a century. If the Poseidon were to be salted, it would be devastating to any coastal city. And considering that most of our major cities sit on the coast, it would be a crippling blow to the United States, or anybody Russia would unleash this on. While there are conflicting reports on whether or not this is the case, the Army's Operational Environment Data Integration Network lists this as a possible threat, so we should consider it a threat as well. This sounds barbaric, and frankly it is, but Russia does not view the Poseidon as a first-strike weapon. They instead view it as a second or third-strike weapon in a nuclear exchange, which I guess is reassuring to some degree, since if the nukes are already flying, it won't make much of a difference anyway. While producing these drones is important, you have to have a purpose-built launch vehicle as well, since there's nothing like it in the Russian military. Currently in the works, there are 2 different subs that could carry the Poseidon. The first is a modified Oscar II class sub called the K-329 Belgorod, which entered service in 2022 and is currently the biggest submarine in operation. The Russians call it a special mission sub, and while it is commanded by the Russian Navy, it's under direct control of the Main Directorate of Deep Sea Research, or GUGI. Think of it as the secret side of their navy. They conduct covert missions like deep-sea exploration, intelligence gathering, and sabotage. Last year, the United States told CNN that they were worried that this group could try to cut undersea cables to cripple international communications. This is entirely possible, as the Belgorod carries the nuclear-powered Losharik midget sub. This midget sub is designed to detach from the Belgorod and conduct clandestine missions undetected, relying on its small size to stay hidden. While it provides the Russian Navy impressive capabilities, it's still under repair thanks to a fire from 2019, which cost the lives of 14 hydronauts. So it's still not in operation. The complete package of the Belgorod and Losharik help Russia complete special missions, makes it the perfect first host vehicle for the Poseidon. Since the Belgorod is a one-of-a-kind sub, the Russian Navy is currently producing a new class of submarine built around the Poseidon. This new class would be called the Khabarovsk class and would be based on the Borei-class submarine, albeit heavily modified. Little is known about this submarine, but the production of a new submarine class shows how Russia views the Poseidon. They're definitely planning on it being part of their navy and are investing a significant amount of time, money, and research into a new class of Poseidon-ready subs. Besides submarines, it's thought that the Poseidon could have the ability to be launched through underwater skiffs. A skiff is a stationary seabed delivery device that would contain a Poseidon drone and could wait indefinitely until given the order to launch. This is a whole new type of delivery system, exclusive to the Poseidon. In order to do this, the Russians have been experimenting with an ice-breaking transport ship to transport and place a seaborne version of the Poseidon. It would help disguise Poseidon deployments, and, thanks to its long range, could be placed in friendly waters and just cruise its way to its destination. Something fun to think about, as I'm a scuba diver. In 2019, the Russians' news channel TASS reported that the Poseidon would be deployed in 4 submarines. 2 would be stationed in the Northern Fleet, which is in the Arctic, and 2 in the Pacific Fleet, in Russia's Far East. While this was the plan, it is unlikely to happen anytime soon, as they reported in 2023 that Russia expects to receive delivery of 3 Poseidon-capable subs by 2027. This conveniently lines up with the projected deployment of the Poseidon. If the Nukepedo drone and the subs made to carry it are delivered on time, that means in only 2 years, the Russians would have a new type of nuclear weapon that gives them a tactical edge over the rest of the world. All of these things related to Poseidon are significant investments for the Russians, and beg the question as to why it was created in the first place. This new system of weapons is due to the United States withdrawing from the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty back in 2002. This treaty was between the Soviet Union and the United States, limited the number of anti-ballistic missiles built and used by both countries. While this sounds counterintuitive, it worked based on the idea of mutually assured destruction. Both countries would have less of an incentive to use nuclear weapons because they would not be able to effectively counter incoming nuclear weapons. This all changed after 9/11, when there was a fear of nuclear weapons being used against the United States by terrorists or rogue states. The withdrawal from the treaty was seen as a step backward in nuclear relations at the time, but it wouldn't be until 2018 when its effects on Russian nuclear strategies were known. This is when Putin announced Russia had begun developing the 6 nuclear superweapons that the United States couldn't stop. While it's unlikely all of these weapons will be completed, the Poseidon is one of the most likely to see the light of day, or darkness of the ocean, because of the potential it has. It's also not vaporware, as they have already test-fired a Poseidon back in 2019. And by all reports, it's on track to be fully adopted with serial production of 30 of the drones beginning in 2023. Reactions around the world about Poseidon have been relatively mixed. On one hand, you have General Mattis saying that it doesn't upset the nuclear balance, as Russia already has the capability to launch thousands of nuclear missiles at U.S. cities. And while this is true, if Poseidon is able to conduct autonomous patrols, then the threat will literally be constant, and early warning systems like those at NORAD will be useless.
What's a trajectory heading?
I have no idea.
In an article produced by the U.S. Naval Institute, they even suggest that we produce our own UUV to ensure that the United States has similar capabilities as the Russians. For Europe, this seems to be even more concerning, as they would be more vulnerable to Russian subs thanks to geography and a less robust military. Because of increased tensions, in 2024, the United Kingdom and Germany signed an agreement that it would allow German Navy Boeing P-8 Poseidon aircraft, no relation to the Russian Poseidon, to launch from RAF Lossiemouth in Scotland. This follows a trend of European countries spending more on their defense and increasing cooperation. It's no surprise that submarines have become a focus, Germany alone committing $4 billion to buy more subs. And Poseidon has likely played into this push. This isn't necessarily strictly because of its stats on paper, but rather because of how good of a propaganda tool it's become. 2022, Dmitry Kislyov from Channel One Russia, sorry Dmitry, stated that a single Poseidon could turn the UK into a radioactive desert. And he isn't wrong if it's anything like the Russians say it is. When it was first announced, it was thought that the Poseidon could be the biggest nuclear bomb ever, at 100 megatons, and create radioactive tsunamis that would wipe out entire coasts. That's usually something we just see on television. While we now know it's nowhere near this large and would not generate enough energy to create a tsunami, it was an effective tool at the time that got people talking about Russia's capabilities, as they were bogged down in Ukraine. When the world knows your conventional military is nowhere near as strong as they once thought, touting the praises of an apocalyptic nuclear weapon is certainly a way to bring back the Russian threat. I mean, when Putin said, "You have failed to contain Russia" in 2018, it's pretty telling on why they developed these types of weapons. It's a strategy that Russia has used over and over again. It's fairly effective, and it's been the subject of numerous news articles. I mean, we're even talking about it now. If you can't be loved, being feared will have to do. The Poseidon drone has become a statement from Russia. It's a new class of weapon, could prove to be devastating if ever used. While we still don't know for certain when it will officially be in service, and we only have projections about it, it's already a part of the war in our minds. It has innovative features not seen in other weapons and throws a big ol' wrench into the United States' own plans for a Golden Dome, or whatever we're calling it now. Only time will tell us its true capabilities. But we know it's out there, and it's only a matter of time until we see if we have a nuclear underwater drone patrolling the seas, waiting for the fateful order to attack. Humans. This video was written by David Kaplan and edited by Sabby. And hosted by me, Shannon.